Well, temperatures have cooled off a lot and it's gonna even get colder tomorrow, I think. But didn't have to start the wood stove today. Hopefully the leaves will change color soon and we can go out in the woods and take a look at things. Supposed to get a lawnmower in today. I worked on this lawnmower before. They put diesel in the gas. But this time, they said the battery's not charging or it's dying or something. So probably a charging system issue would be my guess. It's always terrible to guess because usually you get into it and it's nothing what the customer said. Probably just a bad battery, who knows? So I, as you know, struggle understanding people. It's one of the primary reasons I live here is it's just gotten so bad for me that I've just given up. I just don't want to deal with them. And the lawnmower repair business is an example. I tell you all the time that I have troubles with customers understanding what it is they're doing and why they do it. And so, but I do the lawnmower repair because I don't have to deal with customers that much. You know, 80% of the job is working on lawnmowers, so it still keeps me on the property, so I don't have to go work for an employer and be around a bunch of people and try to figure those people out. Of course, I got YouTube, and you know, just the comment section is just always a nightmare. But I've always struggled with people. I don't understand the mindsets. I don't understand the different ways people react to things. And everybody always seems to think that they are right. And I struggle with that concept that I'm always right. I usually take the submissive approach and think, okay, what is it that I'm not seeing here that this guy is? And what told you a while back, a guy shows up on my property and apparently he gave me a lawnmower, a push mower. I don't know, a period of time went by and he shows back up and he points at the lawnmower and says, there's my lawnmower that I gave you. And he said he was a retired police officer. And my mind immediately just jumped to, he wants his lawnmower back. Why did he give it to me? You know, I didn't understand. I've only had 2 push mowers that people have given me that I repaired and got rid of. So I didn't understand him wanting it back, but the lawnmower that he pointed to was not his. And even when I said it wasn't his, well, how do you know it's not mine? Maybe you sold to someone and they brought it back to get it worked on. I was confused by the whole thing, and it escalated. You know, finally I'm telling him to get off the property, and he's telling me he's a former police officer. I know I probably handled it badly, but I didn't remember who he was. I just couldn't figure it out. Turns out that he worked at Ferguson, Missouri Police Department, which is horribly corrupt. That's where the big Michael Brown incident happened, and there was riots and all that north of St. Louis. So, you know, he was trying to use his position and his authority, and you know, and that's the thing, is so many people have so much arrogance and narcissism nowadays. It's easy for me to see. It's easy for me to see the gaslighting and the temper tantrums that they have, and the lies and manipulation. And it seems like no one is immune from it. I remember one time, my daughter used to go to church, but I don't go to church. I celebrate God and all that, but I don't go to church, and there's a lot of reasons I don't go to church. Primarily, my family turned me away from church. I don't want to get into that. And my ex-wife, my daughter's mother, she didn't go to church. So, but we always encouraged our daughter to go to church, always. And she always went every Sunday. I don't know if she's ever missed a church. She went all the church camps every year. And she was big in the church. My daughter was. Well, she got baptized, and we didn't go to the baptism either. And our daughter understood my reasoning, why I didn't go to church, and she was very accepting of it. I mean, you may not believe me when I say that, but you don't have to. I know she did. She was totally understanding. But she didn't go to church to learn, to become closer to God. She went to church to learn about God. And that, you know, it was a classroom for her. It was an education. So when she got baptized, we didn't go. Well, a few weeks later, her preacher came to our house. Now, we had a sign on the front door that said no solicitors. So he started to turn around, but I knew who he was. So I went outside and I said, hey, hi, how you doing? Hi. And we had a conversation. I didn't realize he was trying to solicit me for church at all. I didn't gather that. I thought he wanted to talk about my daughter. But after a brief conversation, he says, I wanted to talk to you about your daughter. And I mean, I knew that's what it was. And he says, she's been pretty upset lately. Really? I mean, this is very strange to me. I mean, we homeschooled our daughter, so her being upset, we identified those kind of issues pretty quickly. I said, wow, that's strange. Why? He says, well, your daughter has expressed to me that she wants you guys to go to church. Really? Wow. I mean, I was just completely floored by this. Almost heartbroken type of floored. I was like, as much as my daughter and my wife and my daughter and I would communicate about church and why she was going and why we didn't go and our thought process on the whole thing, and I was just really shocked that my daughter would go to the preacher and say, you know, she's disappointed in us. So we talked for a while, and I really didn't have much of an opinion other than, you know, I'm glad he told us. And so the next earliest convenience, I sat down with my daughter and I said, hey, you know, preacher came by the other day. She says, yeah, I saw him out there. I didn't know what you guys were talking about. And I said, well, he discussed with us that you were upset that we weren't going to church. She looked. She says, Dad, I didn't say that. Now, when my daughter lied, it was so obvious that she was lying. She would immediately shut up. She wouldn't say a word. And if you forced her and pushed the effort, it would be stuttering. But she looked stunned, like, no, I didn't say that. And I said, well, when's the last time you talked to the preacher one-on-one? And she sat there and thought, well, I guess it was my baptism. Oh, okay, what'd you guys talk about it? And she says, that's it right there. She said, I said, too bad that Mom and Dad can't come to the baptism. But she said, I wasn't disappointed. I mean, I would have enjoyed you being there, but I wasn't disappointed. I understood why you didn't go. And we had a celebration afterwards. So she was fine with our little celebration. So that's when I realized even Christians are not immune from manipulation and gaslighting. It wasn't that he was worried about my daughter. He was worried about us going to church. He needed to recruit people. And so he used manipulation and lies to do it, or half-truths. And so that's why I stay away from people. I'm constantly having to question their sincerity and their honesty. I mean, if a preacher can do that without much hesitation and sit there and have a conversation with me before and after, like it was totally okay to lie to me to get me to go to church, I don't want any part of that. I mean, which only reinforced why I don't go to church in the first place, which was my family, which again, I'm not going to tell you about, but it really is just a bunch of hypocrisy. To me, if people are going to force you to go to church while they're doing the same sins without even trying to correct themselves, I understand everybody sins, I get it. But once you ask for forgiveness, then you try very hard not to do it again. Repent. And I don't see repentance from many Christians. So it was, so that's my reasoning. And so if you take that one example and you apply it a kabillion times of the people I've met in my life, that's why I stay here to myself as much as possible. So, as you have probably heard me say before, the building across the street, I use their parking lot to load and unload lawnmowers. And in exchange, they've asked me to watch the place over there. It was vandalized by a bunch of teenagers one year. And several people online accused us of doing it. And I got kind of defensive online, said, hey, no, and one person came over and tried to say, I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about the people down the street. And no, you weren't. See, another manipulation. The guy across the street is what he said. I can see the building right here. It's right there. How are you talking about people down the road? So, you know, he was trying to get out of me being upset with him. So, anyway, after the place was vandalized by those teens, they asked me, did I see anything? I said, well, I saw the kids over there. They were sitting on the steps. It was still dusk. You know, it was still daylight type of dusk, early evening, or late evening. And then I went to bed, and I didn't know anything about it afterwards. So the folks asked me if I would watch the place. They put up cameras and that kind of stuff, but, you know, I don't know if the cameras still work, to be honest. So occasionally things will happen over there, and I'll get a hold of the people that run the place. Well, the other day, a trash truck came over, and they were doing illegal activity, transferring trash from one truck to another, and I let her know 2 weeks in a row, and she addressed that. Someone used their dumpster one time, and she was pretty upset about the dumpster being used by this person. Would come in once a week, dump his trash in the dumpster, and leave. Well, it's a really small dumpster, and when they have an event, they got to have that dumpster. And sometimes I've seen them actually have an event, say on Sunday, the trash is picked up Tuesday morning, completely full, and then you'll see a group of people go back in there and fill it up again because there's so much trash, there wasn't enough room to get it all dumped the first time. So they need the dumpster space. And I understand they don't make a lot of money over there. I mean, it's a nice building, but they just don't get a lot of activity. So I went over there, you know, after she was so upset with people online, you know, trying to get people to realize you're not supposed to dump trash. I saw him over there one time, and I just walked over and said, hey, you know, the folks here that run the place asked me to let you know that, you know, that dumpster is for this building's use only. Oh, he was upset. He peeled up going backwards to get back to the dumpster and grabbed his trash, and he's cussing the whole way out as he's peeling out of the drive. So yesterday there was 2 cars over there, and they're both pointing our direction, so they're watching us. Well, we weren't home. We went to the gas station real quick. I mean, it was like a 10-minute trip. I mean, it was nothing. So we come back in, and there they are sitting there in the parking lot across the street. Well, there's a no loitering sign now over there because when that trash truck did it, they hung a no loitering sign. So I try not to get too involved in confronting people over there. But, you know, she likes to have pictures of, you know, that way she can report it to the police or whatever she's going to do with the pictures. So she's in the past asked me for pictures, like the trash truck, she's asked me for pictures. Like the guy who was dumping trash, she asked for pictures. So I couldn't get a good angle because they were kind of tucked in behind a tree, and I couldn't get the license plate very good. So I walked around on the road. I was not in the parking lot over there. I was on the road, and I snapped a picture. Well, that guy just got furious. I mean, absolutely. He got out of his truck. Well, by the time he got out of his truck, I was already back in our yard. And he's screaming and hollering and cussing. What the F are you taking my picture for? And I said, well, there's no loitering sign there. I'm waiting for the police. And I'm like, you already called the police over a picture? And I'm like, well, it's totally illegal for me to take a picture. I can take a picture of anything I want in the street. I mean, you know, those First Amendment audits, I don't know if you've ever seen them on YouTube, but they do that kind of stuff all the time. So I reached down to grab my pocket spray because he's heading over. And this is the same time I said, there's no loitering sign there. And either my hand going down to my pocket, I'm sure he saw it, or the no loitering sign, the wind kind of came out of his sails a little bit. I mean, still upset, but he didn't keep approaching me. He stopped at that point, and he's still cussing. Well, I'm gonna call, and he named the person who runs that place. I said, that's fine. I've already contacted her. So they did. They called her. Well, she confirmed what I was saying is, yeah, there's no loitering over there. You're not supposed to be on that driveway. And so they come peeling out. You know, I was already in the house by that time. So after they get a phone, they come peeling out, squealing their wheels. And I don't know what they called the cops for. The cops never came here. Well, when I contacted the lady that runs the place, I said, look, you're going to get a phone call from these people. They're upset. And she said, yeah, they already called me, which at this time they're starting to peel out. And I said, all I did was take a picture, and they started cussing. And she said, yeah, these people are pretty bad. Carolyn and I have been talking about this a lot. I don't understand people. You know, I said this whole video, I don't get them. So here we are, and they're peeling out and mad and cussing, but for what? They were in violation. I mean, obviously they were in violation. If they didn't think they were doing anything wrong, I mean, first of all, they're being recorded by cameras on the building. If they didn't think they were doing anything wrong, why get upset? Okay, he took a picture. Makes sense why he would take a picture. We're staring at his house. Maybe he thinks we're stalking him. Maybe he thinks that we're not supposed to be here. I mean, even if I called the cops, you know, well, I'm allowed to be here, you know, whatever. They knew they weren't supposed to be here. That's why they got mad. What I find interesting, and this is what Carolyn said earlier, is in the past, years ago, you know, in the 80s, if somebody was caught doing something wrong and they were confronted by someone about it, it was always, oh, I'm sorry. You know, let me get out of here. And then they would leave. Or they would stop doing whatever it is they were doing wrong. Once they were caught, you know, they were humbled. They were like, okay. But that's not the way it is nowadays. Nowadays, people get violent, get upset, get angry, cuss and holler and scream, peel out. Why? What? You were doing something wrong. The only thing I'm doing is taking a picture, which is completely legal. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, Carolyn says that I shouldn't have taken the picture. Legally, I have every right to. But the only thing I did was escalate, she said. And yeah, you're right, I escalated, but I didn't think I was going to escalate considering they're already being recorded. They knew they were on private, you know, on property that was being recorded. I don't get people. I don't understand the anger. I don't understand any of it anymore. The narcissism, the lying, the manipulations, this gaslighting. It's a sad world. So if you'll click this up next box, take the video where I was working on my lawnmowers over on the other channel. So I hope I can inspire you to get away from it, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.